What's going on, ladies and gents? It's Jake, aka Countdown Ended, coming to you once again with Into Somewhere podcast. And if you know the name, you know I'm not alone. That's right, I'm bringing you back the one, the only, my other work husband, Cody O'Neill 316. Happy to have you here, my friend.
Hell yeah. Can't wait to get Money in the Bank, all that shit.
I mean, it's been a hell of a wrestling weekend/week already. We got some massive events happening on NXT, and that might change the future of the women's division in WWE on Raw and SmackDown. We saw Jacy Jayne go ahead and shockingly defeat Stephanie Vancouver last night. All of the infighting,
which
and
nobody thought was going to happen. And
yeah,
everyone in the IWC is flipping out about it still, which is a good thing because
that jaw drop moment is great.
Publicity is good publicity.
Absolutely. And having people be so shocked and appalled and upset and happy and elated and confused, that was a true shocking outcome that no one saw coming. And I mean, absolutely nobody. At least people had predicted with Trick, you know, if he goes ahead and he wins, we're going to see him. If he's the main event, you know, he's winning with that title. And lo and behold.
I know people are like, Jacy Jayne to her? What is that about? I'm like, sometimes you need that shock value.
You need the shock value.
Can't just, because wrestling's just going to die if everything's just predictable. Then what's the fun of watching anymore?
You nailed it, my friend.
You need those unpredictable moments and shock value, whether you like it or not. And Stephanie Vancouver and Jordan Grace, all that, they're going to be called up to the main roster soon, Raw and SmackDown.
But here's the thing. You nailed it, my friend. It wasn't shock for shock's sake either. Like, that wasn't the only intended purpose. First off, this show was supposed to be live in front of a much bigger audience in Tampa. So that was certainly showcased that this was the match, and not just match, but the show they had booked. You know, they had 2 title changes, a great debut. They built up Santana to be the TNA hero, to challenge, obviously, Trick. I loved the way they presented him and introduced him to a new audience while making him feel like a huge deal. Ricky Saints is protected, but gets completely destroyed. His throat is, that was gnarly. That, you know, twisted grin right into the exposed underneath of that chair. And they did a great job making you believe in the intro that, oh, look, Ricky is going to be able to survive and come back, and he scrapes and he scraps and he claws. And then it's just a little too of an evil bastard was all ego Ethan Page, and he took advantage of this situation. But again, like, that wasn't a full foregone conclusion. You thought Ethan Page may win here because of how they've handled him. He's a former, you know, main champ, and it's advancing the story. But with Jacy Jayne, people are like you said, her? Really? But they didn't do this just for shock value. It wasn't a swerve for swerve swakes, bro. It wasn't a Vince Russo era, now we're going to have Hogan be the bad guy and then later on come out and be the face type thing. This was a decently formulated plan that was executed top notch. They made Fatal Influence with all the infighting and the disillusion, and they were so disenfranchised with each other. They couldn't get along. Everybody was losing. Everybody was just not working as a cohesive unit. But in the end, Fallon Henley goes ahead and attacks Stephanie Vancouver while, you know, Jasmine Nix is distracting the ref. I mean, we saw her get shoved to the ground. She walks away, puts her hands up in frustration. They played us. They got us. And they did it in such a way that it was shocking. It was. But it all advances a great story here. Stephanie was already earmarked for the main roster initially. Reports said that she chose to go to NXT. It wasn't supposed to be a long stay, though. And then her and Julia were supposed to switch roles. It was supposed to be Julia in this position as the face, as the main girl, and the fans just took to Stephanie more. It happened organically. It happened naturally. And as things tend to with the NXT audience down there in the Performance Center, once they gravitate towards someone, it takes a lot to break that hold. And the fans they wanted to see Stephanie dominate. And she's had a great career down there so far. It's only been, you know, shy of a year that she's been in the company.
And she's
she
already
joined
getting
last
called up to the
summer.
main roster.
Exactly. They were debuted at the last half of the year last year, and already, it seems like she's getting that call up. Julia got called up to SmackDown. It seems like Stephanie's going to go to Raw. But they transitioned with Julia. We don't see WWE transition on their plans. Usually they're very headstrong, and whatever the formula that they have planned, that's what they go with. They execute these things as such. And I like that NXT is willing to not only take chances, as we've seen, but adapt accordingly to their audience. Hey, the audience is really behind Joe Hendry. Let's push this guy. Hey, the audience is really behind Miles. Let's try this out. Hey, the audience is really going with Stephanie. We'll make her the secondary champ as planned, but we're going to push up the title versus title match, and then everything that transpired. You thought that it was a true, as I keep saying, foregone conclusion. She had no doubt in her mind, in the fans' minds, I should say, that Stephanie was walking out with that title. It's a weekly NXT show. She just defended it against Jordynne Grace on Battleground 48 hours before on Sunday. So there are outs for Stephanie. She's protected. Not only did she get attacked in the match, but she also just came off of the incredible defense. She's been burning the candle at both ends. She was a dual champ, defending both titles briefly, relinquished that one. Sol Ruca won it in a ladder match and has been on fire since. But you think of what she did to amplify the women's division and make them the best that there is as far as women's wrestling goes. That could be said confidently now. The women in NXT are killing it. And the reason I bring such emphasis to this, because the women of NXT are becoming, faster than we expected, the women of the main roster. We've got Roxanne Perez up there, obviously, Rhea Ripley, Io Sky. I mean, there's so many that have transitioned that are just top-notch and killing it. Alexa Bliss is another one that's doing, wonders up there from NXT. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bayley. We've seen the NXT effect. We know they have the top-notch women's roster, but now we're also seeing the men's side develop really well, too. And yeah, they had the ID program. They had the Performance Center. We saw Obafemi come from there. But now the LFG side, there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of new
WWE is
there.
smart with building up young talent, and I like it.
They have talent in every direction. Everyone's hungrier. Everyone's younger. And it does lead, and this is a conversation I want to have with you at another time, because there's still that mindset in wrestling. And I watched the Dark Side of the Ring Daphne episode, and I remember the live stream that she had before she committed suicide. It was terrible, and her dealing with the bipolar disorder for years and everything that she went through. But working hurt really ruined her career quickly. It spiraled her out of control, coming back and feeling she was forced to work with the concussions to not lose her spot. Speaks volumes. And yes, they've added concussion protocols and they've changed and developed, putting health first for the most part. But there still is that there's always going to be someone younger, hungrier, stronger, faster, ready to take your spot. And we've seen with injuries, when someone comes back, they just can't get the momentum they had before. They can't recapture that glory. And it's not booking. It's like they just missed their time. So, one of the things I do want to discuss on a longer term with you is that mindset. Does it still need to be as prevalent of, hey, I need to be quiet about injuries and work injured? But I mean, as much as they've moved forward, wrestling industry is still the wrestling industry. It's still the business. That mindset exists for a reason, and that's why I think I was so upset with AEW's men's final for the Owen Hart Cup. You had Hangman and Ospreay both saying, well, I want the other guy to win. I shouldn't take it. The other guy should. The other guy needs to be. Why? Why are you not fighting for yourself? Being the nice guy is not going to get you ahead.
Are they running from the grind? Maybe.
I don't know, but it feels that way. But getting into Money in the Bank, what we're here for, I wanted to go over last night's NXT and the women's division because it plays into Evolution and everything else in such a big way. They're definitely going to go overdrive.
Stephanie Vature, I can play into Money in the Bank because you never know, because there's a Monday Night Raw coming up with the last women's qualifiers, and she could be a mystery.
I don't want to set expectations too high, but we know this upcoming Friday on SmackDown, we have obviously Naomi, Jade, and Nia Jax in the 5th Women's Money in the Bank ladder match qualifier. So already for the women's, we've got some really great competitors there, as we've mentioned, but that last to be determined. We've got one more spot for the next SmackDown and one more spot coming up on Raw. We don't know if it's for the men, the women, what, and when they'll give it to us next week, but hopefully it's on Raw that we get it, so SmackDown we can kind of get the typical everybody on your ladder face-to-face segments. Granted, I'm excited, though, for Money in the Bank, and part of that is because of Evolution being right after. They're going full bore in the women's side of things. So kicking off the show, I think, will likely be the last chance match for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So Lyra Valkyria, the champion, is taking on Becky Lynch. If Lyra loses, she's forced to raise Becky's hand and recognize her as the man and the better woman. But if Becky loses, she cannot challenge for the IC title again as long as Lyra is champion. So very interesting. Dual stakes on the line. Becky, of course,
with that stipulation,
she wants to be acknowledged.
With that stipulation, I don't know about you, but I think Lyra wins.
I'm thinking Lyra wins, and I'm thinking, as I tweeted and said, weeks back and last night, they took Bayley out of WrestleMania, which is a huge deal. And then since that time where Becky came back, won the women's tag titles, lost the women's tag titles, turned on Lyra, and then faced her and lost, she's continually tarnished and trashed Bayley's name on promos and segments in the back, whatever it might be, every chance she gets. She said Bayley's so confused she's probably spending $99 a month to text her best friend, right? We got that famous viral moment on the After Raw podcast.
Should I throw you under the bus? That's what you spend the text.
I know, I got to pay a lot to go ahead and get a hold of you. That's a week too. It's $100 a week just to talk to you, but worth every penny.
Then I just create all these fake accounts and blow up your phone,
Hey, at least I feel like I'm getting talked to. It's exciting. I got 100 new followers today. It might all be you, but
that's the first thing you probably thought of, I mean.
Exactly. Hey, I know they're all Cody, and you see the fans doing the same thing where like they have this great affinity towards Bayley, and then they took her out of it. So no one's really, really, really connecting to Lyra like I feel like they should. You're not getting the stands of 100 accounts. You're not getting the grassroots momentum like I had hoped. Lyra tried to connect with the fans with the build post-Mania, but I don't feel like she ever really got there. She exemplified a better character and showed some tenacity, but I don't feel like she was able to resonate with the audience. Now, partially that could be because the audience is out for blood and just wants to be entertained. They don't care if you're heel or face. They just want to cheer or boo what happens in front of their eyes. Therefore, right. Being, if you're going to see Braun Breaker crush the underdog and fan favorite Sami Zayn with another spear, they're going to chant one more time. So you can't always judge with the current live crowd attitude, but it definitely seemed like Lyra was being an afterthought. And it was always going to be Becky and Bayley. And to me, it still feels like that. Lyra's going to go into Evolution. She'll likely defend her title there. They need to add many matches. But I think...
And sometimes with WWE crowds, you get those shifts, though, where they tend to cheer the heels more than the baby faces.
And that still could happen here because the fans, I feel like they don't really want to boo Becky. She came back. They cried. They were happy to see her.
That's why I feel like I was wrong about how she would act as a heel. I don't think Becky's a bad heel, but I just still feel like it feels forced.
It does feel forced and doesn't feel like it's working, and it's going against the grain, which is why I feel like it feels forced. So they bring Charlotte back as a face, and the audience rips her apart.
Oh, God. WWE did that last time before she got hurt, too, right? She was acting like a babyface.
Okay, and that's a bunch of bullshit.
I don't know who's in that writer's room. Like, Charlotte Flair should never be a fucking babyface, ever.
No. And I guess they could have Becky be a heel, but just turning on Lyra, who the fans really didn't resonate with, and the fact that she attacked Bayley off screen. Now, she did take Bayley out of Mania, but they never showed the footage. They didn't. So it didn't really feel as personal or connected to Bayley as it could be. So they didn't have her give a
The
great
best
turn.
version of me with Becky Lynch is the original The Man character where she was a tweener, because
Yes.
she didn't give a shit, because when she did that mixed tag team match with John Cena, for example, she threw his ass out of the ring too after the match, saying, "Get your ass out of here. I'm the man around here."
And that was great. And here's the thing with her, and that's kind of the problem. Why did she turn, supposedly? Well, she came in as looking like a face, but really she took out Bayley because she wanted to be the champ. She wanted to win the tag titles and have her moment at Mania, and felt Bayley didn't deserve it. Some of the fans already didn't argue with that. They were like, Bayley shouldn't be taken on a Mania. But there was a louder section of fans, it felt like to me, that were like, God damn it. How can you argue? You know, Becky Lynch deserves this spot. She should be there.
Because I remember that whole situation. Like, Lyra was like right there when she got attacked, because Liv and Raquel were just walking in as well. Like, oh, what happened, bro? Right?
Yeah, she was there right afterwards.
Them.
Exactly. And so they kind of
and
muddied the
Lyra was
water
there too
with a misdirect.
And I'm like, so if Lyra was nearby, she didn't see Becky Lynch at all?
Exactly. And with Becky being gone, so Becky had to come back to a show in hiding, attack Bayley, then leave, not be seen at all, and then come back as a surprise to be Lyra's new tag partner. And here's the thing, too. You had Becky turn on Lyra, but why did she turn?
Whoa.
Because Lyra lost the tag titles, and Becky was embarrassed in front of the Raw After Mania crowd. She was pissed off because I just came back. I just became a women's tag champ with you, and you cost us this opportunity. You couldn't keep up your end of the bargain. You're supposed to be, you know, under my wing. I'm supposed to be your hero, your idol, and you can't even get the job done. I'm not saying she's justified, but there were fans that felt that way. Like, hey, Lyra didn't keep up her end. So Becky's not a heel. Maybe she shouldn't have turned on her the way she did, but her initial thoughts weren't wrong. And anytime you justify a heel in that way, that fans already don't want to boo, it becomes a dangerous territory. She wasn't supposed to be viewed as a tweener. She wasn't supposed to be viewed as justifiable or a good guy at all. She was supposed to be strictly judged as a bad guy. She was supposed to not be the man. She was supposed to be the bitch. And they instead kind of gave her some of that anti-authority, Stone Cold Becky Hogan thing going on. And it just made her seem like a bigger star and a bigger deal than Lyra. So fans would start to boo her, and then they would cheer her again because she would get them to come back around, and that's not great. Yes, you want the heel to have an air of believability. They need some form of realism for you to be like, oh, it makes sense why they're doing it, but I don't agree with it. You had fans being like, oh, it makes sense, and I can kind of see why. And then it just spiraled from there. People didn't want to boo Becky, so this is dangerous. She's already outshadowing Lyra, but I feel like the main goal here is to get Becky and Bayley against each other.
Just topic with the women's division in general. Like, I see a lot of finishes lately with the women's division where, like, they don't want their top stars to be pinned clean. Like, Becky got rolled up, I believe, by Lyra, right? Liv got rolled up by Kyrie. Like, why is that? Instead of having, like, a clean loss, like, they always want to...
Because they have too many stars right now that they want to protect and save for bigger moments. But that ends
the women's division, people complain about the WWE women's division, by the way, and I want to just to address this real quick. The NXT women's division is amazing. Monday Night Raw has a stacked women's division as well. That you got Rhea Ripley, you got Io Sky, you got Becky Lynch, you got Lyra Valkyria, you got Liv Morgan, all those people. And so I don't think the women's division is being booked bad per se.
No.
But the IWC is going to, complain as always. So I just wanted to
if you go for the SmackDown roster and look through,
that's something to complain
on the female side. We that's lacking in star power. I mean, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Zelina Vega.
By the way, Nia Jax. Holy shit! What planet are we living on where Nia Jax is delivering some of the best matches in the women's division?
Maybe not the best match, but at least the best on SmackDown, certainly. But she's improved greatly. She was one that had
putting on better matches than Kairi Sane.
You knew I wanted nothing to do with her. She was more because she was injuring stars too. That was a big problem that I had. And not only has she come back as a safer worker, but she's been greatly improved on the mic, in the ring, how she's been presented. They finally got it right. She's this big immovable object that's supposed to be this.
She puts on better matches. This might be a hot take, people, but Kairi Sane hasn't looked that good. She's putting on better matches than Kairi Sane.
At least in the last 2 weeks, certainly. Kairi has not had 2 great outings. First with the mistiming with Zoe Stark and everything that happened with Rhea. I know they had to
she looked sloppy with Liv as well.
They had to change up everything with Rhea, so you can kind of understand the sloppiness maybe there because it was on the fly being recalled from a triple threat to a singles match. But with this week with Liv, there were so many spots of just mistiming, miscommunication, whatever you want to call it. And you could say Liv hasn't been around either. So you have 2 people essentially possibly with some ring rust on them. And it was a bit of a stinker.
Liv hasn't wrestled since the Raw after Mania. So.
Yeah, where they reclaimed the titles. So, or no, they wrestled the NXT after Mania.
For a month either. So they both had. That was probably
NXT the night after Mania as well.
Had like Io and Liv again because Io and Liv, whatever reason, they have wrestling magic there.
They indeed do. I mean, there's a lot of good that can be taken.
I don't know if you put 2 people that have ring rust in the ring together that's just asking for a disaster.
Yeah, the booking wasn't of the greatest of mindsets for this, and that was a problem. And one of the matches that people are thinking gets added to Money in the Bank is Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. And I mean,
which I'm not going to complain about because look at the matches they put on.
Yeah, up until Mania, they had a really, really good feud. And then again, we saw them afterwards. You know, we had her kick out of the prettiest moonsault ever, which no one's done. Nia was the first one to do that. That match that they had recently, even with Nia getting busted open with the chair at the end, it was still a really good match. And with Evolution 2 coming up, it's like maybe they want to go ahead and hold this off and do it at Evolution and end the feud there. But I think there's bigger matches to be had with Evolution, and I think that fits more the Money in the Bank motif. I mean, from the SmackDown side, I would rather see them, if they're only going to add 1 more match, because we have 4 currently, if they were only to add 1, I would like to see, with some type of stipulation, Fraxium and the Street Profits. You know, with all the interference and the Wyatt Six and all that, maybe even make it a cage match. I think that would be great. We don't see the SmackDown titles defended at PLEs. We don't see them defended at WrestleMania, but yet they consistently deliver. Look at that TLC match we got. Now with the Wyatt Six ending this great match that we had, it was a no contest in the end between Fraxium and the Street Profits. It was disappointing. Yeah, it was surprising to see the Wyatt Six return, but damn, I wanted an end to that match. And I don't know, it would be their first main roster PLE for Fraxium. So adding that to it is a multifaceted occasion. I think it'd be great. Give them a huge win, let them get the tag titles, and then go on a great defense for a while. These guys eventually are future single stars, but while they're in this tag team motif, let them keep rocking it. They were the top tag team in NXT for a damn reason, and they went and wrestled all over and gave us usually not just match of the night, but sometimes match of the year contenders. So I know we're bringing up the women's side, but I also wonder, what about Zelina Vega? You know, her title not being defended. We're getting Lyra's on there. Do they save her for Evolution, or do we get her versus Michin? Maybe her and Alba Fire, or, you know, she's kind of taken on most of the Secret Hervis, and that's kind of been done, but maybe you get a little bit more out of it. But there's nothing that screams it needs to be on Money in the Bank to me. Unfortunately, we already have Lyra on there with the IC. It doesn't seem like Zelina's title needs to be added.
If you want to bring up something real quick about, we made a video about, is kayfabe dead?
Yes.
People are saying kayfabe's dead again because it was Natalia's birthday yesterday, and you know how Rhea and Liv had a blood feud, right?
Yes.
They were. There was a video of them both hanging out yesterday, Liv and Rhea, and people are saying this ruins the illusion.
I don't believe so, because we even discussed, you know, Braun Strowman and good old Roman Reigns being on tour together, feuding with each other.
Braun Breaker and Jey Uso.
You know, we've seen this time and time again. That's why I said kayfabe's not dead. It's just evolved. Because we know that they're playing characters. Exactly. We know it's a role.
And I think we know Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley are friends.
Although it might be still real to a few of us and even a few of our friends and other hosts, it definitely is an act, and we know that. You know, if anything, if I could pick any match to be added, it would be CM Punk and Bronson Reed. I think there's a ton to talk about there. We're getting Seth Rollins involved in
So
the Money in the
I just
Bank
want
match.
IWC to relax here, though.
Yeah, they need to relax. And
Yes,
there's
live and re our friends. That's real life friends.
everybody is able to coexist in such a way where it's like, no shit, are they friends? They don't have the heels travel with the heels anymore and the faces with the faces. We know when people are leaving
I wonder if people actually
or
thought,
changing bookings.
like, those Rhea Ripley stands think Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan actually like hate each other.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways though, where you're like, oh my God, we're getting Bianca Belair to return on Friday, but no, she's not immediately facing Naomi. What is that? It's like, give it time,
Right.
let it breathe, let things happen.
Exactly.
Instead, we have to have everybody jump to conclusions, and it's like, oh, but they're friends. But so what? Are you going to say, when Tom Cruise takes on the evil Russians and Top Gun, they're not friends?
Naomi and Bianca
Offset?
were there. Naomi and Bianca were there too.
Yes, exactly. So people are going to have birthdays, they're going to have celebrations, and we're a long time past, as we brought up in that great discussion, Junkyard Dog forever having to hide in his house because he got blinded by the Freebirds. Like we don't believe injuries are real unless they really happen. We're not thinking, oh, they're at a medical facility, with a burned face right now because Alexa threw a fireball. We know better. We know that there's a theatric nature to all of it, and even young kids know, like, hey, they're portraying a role now. We know that CM Punk is not actually fighting Bronson Reed. We know that Sami Zayn is not. That's the kind of thing. So being able to have these thoughts and conclusions made, it's all an act. And if you can't get behind it, then you're going to get run over by it.
First step, it's a TV show. CM Punk's not his real name. Rhea Ripley's not her real name. Liv Morgan's not her real name. Calm down, people.
Exactly.
It's a TV show.
But as you said with
it's
CM
not
Punk,
fake either.
I think it's a miss to not have him here, especially if they're going to do Night of Champions. We know that as of right now, for the rest of the month, we have Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank, which will be live for both next weekend. We'll be doing a review for Worlds Collide, and then we'll come back later on that night on the 7th for Money in the Bank. But they have Night of Champions on the 28th. And as we know, that's a bit of an issue right now for WWE in terms of Punk and the Saudi shows and what's going on there.
Also could be an issue for at Night of Champions, the Judgment Day.
Yes. And we've got a lot going on with them as well. So we'll see what happens heading into, the next event. But
I'm going to have to change my Twitter name.
You might have to if they break up the Judgment Day era. And we'll get into that when we get into both the Money in the Bank matches. But I wonder if the Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso match will main event, because if they are going to add anything, we've got the John Cena and Logan Paul side covered, but I feel like they're missing out with the deadly alliance of Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker. Do we just have Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker be a X and Y factor for Seth Rollins in the Money in the Bank ladder match to ensure that the Visionary is the man holding the briefcase for 2025? I feel like that's a very predictably boring outcome and thing to have. And if you have, in a way, we'll get to it when we break it down. I think they're setting up for some things, but you can't have the same thing all the way through. You can't have somebody return multiple times just to go ahead and build up to another show. So we got to be careful in the booking. But with Lyra and Becky, you and I both agreed Lyra will retain. I hope they add something with Punk and Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, because Roman will be returning. I'm thinking Roman does get involved or makes his comeback, because they've got to build to a 2-night SummerSlam eventually. We've got a lot coming up. As we mentioned, we got Night of Champions, and we've got in the middle of July going up against All in Texas. We've got All WWE weekend with the Great American Bash, Saturday night's main event, and Evolution 2, as we've been discussing. And then 2 short weeks after that, we've got nights 1 and 2 in Jersey for SummerSlam. And the end of the month is Clash in Paris. So a lot of PLEs coming up, a lot of big shows. And for what they're doing in Riyadh, it doesn't seem like Punk will be involved there. So not having Punk on Money in the Bank, people wanted CM Punk and John Cena on this show in the worst way possible. It's Cena's retirement year. They had their story. I think we will get Punk and Cena, but that's going to happen much later on in the year. I think towards the end of John's run here, we're going to see him go ahead and face Punk, but it's going to be probably past the Perth time, the takeover Perth, everything that happens there. And that's come September, heading into October. I think it'll be towards the end of Cena's year.
That he turns face, you say, or you cut out there?
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and we'll have Cena turn face at the end, but I think he's going to face Punk later on in the year. I don't think it's going to happen.
Punky Brewster.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen in SummerSlam.
Because I heard face, and then
yeah,
stopped.
But we'll definitely get Cena and Logan Paul, which is an interesting combination of heels taking on Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. This match is advertised. They built it with the return of Cody coming out to save his friend Jey Uso from John Cena, because Cena was saying that a YouTuber is going to go ahead and win the title because you can't get it done. Cena felt disgraced in a way, but now he's teaming with Logan. So what do you think we get here? Who wins, Cody and Jey or John and Logan?
I think Cody and Jey do win this match, and I think Logan's there to eat the pin, honestly. So
I agree,
because they don't want John losing. They don't want anyone else. So Logan's there to eat the pin.
I agree entirely. I think this is Cody's, big return since Mania. We've not seen him in any way, shape, or form. He got destroyed and beat pretty bad at that point. And
here's my only thing about it. This match was announced after Gunther and Jey was announced for June 9th.
Yes.
Raw, right? So this should have been announced first. Then Gunther should have said, I'll challenge you on the episode after Money in the Bank, because how did Gunther know Jey was going to have a different match at Money in the Bank?
I guess it was always set up for him to face them on that Raw. That was the plan. But so I understand your point.
Why wouldn't he have
challenged him Money in the Bank?
Because...
Yeah. I guess it was set up that he didn't challenge him. He was offered this match for money for the Raw after Money in the Bank. So he was trying to get a title match, and that's when it was given to him. So he was told, I'll be facing the winner of Logan and Jey from Saturday night's main event on the 9th on that Raw. So whoever is the champion at that time, I hope it's Jey.
That's why I
just
think
that's
it would have
personal.
been better, though, for Jey to have had a match announced already at Money in the Bank.
Exactly. You're already busy for that night. Now logic says we have to do it at Raw, because there was this big overhanging question of why Raw? Why do it then? Why not at the PLE or the pay-per-view? And I get maybe the bigger match is Cena and Logan taking on Cody and Jey. Obviously, Cody's involved.
Better than that John Cena and Travis Scott versus Cody Rhodes and Bad Bunny, right?
Oh, absolutely. Thankfully, we'll see what
even
happens.
Even though Bad Bunny is actually kind of decent in the ring.
Bad Bunny is decent in the ring. I just don't give two shits about him. It was fun to see him take on
Travis
Damian
Scott
Priest and do what he did.
We don't know how
he could be good. I just, again, Cactus Jack's not someone I give a shit about in this current landscape that is with wrestling.
And I don't listen to either of their music, so I don't know much about them besides when
I don't need to hear Fiend anymore. That and the Red Light and Weekend Lights. We've had enough of all that. So Blinding Lights from the Weekend.
We need to escape the Travis Scott vortex.
We're done with all that bullshit. It's got to go. So I think Cody and Jey win here. It's Cody's big return. Jey is the champ. They want to kind of make Jey look big before I think he loses the title to Gunther. I do think Gunther's getting that title because it's going to play into whatever plans they have for Goldberg, SummerSlam, whatever it might be. I'm telling you, they want Gunther possibly holding this title. It just feels very weird as to why they would schedule this match ahead of everything else for a Raw after Money in the Bank and make it such a prominent, important thing that they basically made Gunther a face by going up against Logan at one point and to stand against Seth. So very confusing in his booking and how he's been handled. But the idea of him and Jey again, really, that does nothing for me. We've seen that match so many times. It was a good match at Mania, but even then you knew Jey was winning. That felt like a, again, foregone conclusion. And lo and behold, that's what we got. So I agree with you. Cody and Jey rue the day that they were ever messed with by Cena and Logan. They go ahead and just completely decimate those two because Logan's going to eat the pin. John can kind of hide from that, saying like, "Oh, I didn't lose, Logan lost," and it keeps with his ego. It's an interesting turn of events, but it's not the biggest deal. It doesn't feel as big as it should. Maybe that's Logan's involvement. Maybe, like you said, it's the booking, knowing that Jay's going up against Gunther after the fact, but Cody should be the main focus here. We'll see what happens on Friday.
That
with
should be the main
SmackDown.
focus. Always.
I mean, we know already that this Friday we're going to get 2 qualifier matches. Bianca's returning and Cena appears. So Cody should be there as well. That should be him, making his return.
Sorry,
and I'm excited to do such.
Making the same jokes. I'm tired.
Hey,
okay.
You're in Jakeville now with lack of sleep, but you know who isn't?
Yes,
the men's
sir.
Money in the Bank. We got Solo Sikoa, LA Knight, Penta, who had a great match this week on Raw. That was probably the best match of the night. Seth Rollins and 2 to-be-determined members of the 6-man Money in the Bank ladder match for a men's championship match contract to be used in the future. So this Friday on SmackDown, we've got Jacob Fatu, Andrade, and Carmelo Hayes in the men's qualifier. I'm thinking it's going to be Carmelo Hayes because Solo Sikoa is already in the match. Having him and Jacob could be interesting, but Jacob's got the U.S. title. He's busy with his own thing. It seems like this is going to be the final destruction of the union that is Solo and Jacob. It might take a little bit more time, but I feel like we saw the turning point of him not being like, "I love you, Solo." We got that quick "I love you, Solo" reaction. Right. We got JC Mateo, Jeff Cobb being the new enforcer.
Fatu cannot be in the Money in the Bank because he kind of would have to win it, right? Because he would
unless they really find a way to destroy him and keep him like, oh, he killed everybody, but he killed himself too. He's on such a steamrolling, surge
unless
of momentum.
Unless the betrayal happens at Money in the Bank with Solo.
And to do it in that match would be odd as well. So,
or what's his name now? Fucking
JC Mateo. Yeah, Jeff Cobb.
Yeah,
so
no, thank you.
He's the new enforcer for Solo. And it's interesting because he basically just replaced Fatu entirely, and now we've got a new man in that role, and obviously the new man is going to lay down the law on Jacob, it feels like. So I could see Solo or JC inadvertently costing
I noticed something about
Jacob
both
in that
Bloodline
match.
and Judgment Day.
What's
They're
that?
going to just keep
adding new members.
People get kicked out and new ones come in.
Seems like those groups aren't dying anytime soon because we still have the return of Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. So the Gorillas of Destiny there, and there's a lot of intrigue and a lot to be had.
So every summer a new version of that group will spawn. So those groups will forever stay around.
It seems that way, and They'll just keep adding new members, replace who's lost, and go from there.
They did it last year with Judgment Day, right?
They did it last year with the Bloodline, and you've seen the Bloodline add many members. Same thing with Judgment Day. They've both gone through different iterations, and Judgment Day started.
I still don't
Edge, Finn Balor and Rhea.
Can you remind me? Speaking about the Judgment Day, can you remind me when Carlito got into the Judgment Day? I honestly forgot. He was just.
I was trying to remember that myself the other day. Like he just kind of showed up and got added in. It was like some point in time around when they did the Bad Bunny match. I want to say because he was part of the LWO.
Carlito was in the LWO, right, with Ray. He was teaming with Ray and stuff.
Yeah, and him feuding with Damian Priest.
Then he turned heel, right?
Yeah.
Then Carlito turned heel, and then became a comedy character.
Exactly. And his addition was, questionable. He's been there for over a year at this point, too. It's been a while. So
I guess he's an official member now, but
I mean, yeah. And we've seen him there throughout 2024 and most of 2025 so far. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. As you said, he became that comedy member to kind of offset what they were doing.
Who's he going to be with, though? Is he going to be with Finn, JD, or is he?
I think he'll stay on the heel side. He'll be with JD and Finn. because he could still be the comedy angle, but basically he I remember he attacked, I think it was Dragon Lee, and then it just basically made him align with the Judgment Day because of them feuding. And even
do you want to get into that topic now, or you want to?
Yeah, because we'll really quick while we're still on the men's. I think Solo Sikoa doesn't really have a chance. LA Knight is in there as like one of the wild ones, but we've got two to be determined. I think that's going to be Carmelo Hayes this week. I think he'll get added in because they've done some things with him, but not much. And you know, LA Knight might be the people's pick. I thought
they would have done more with him by now.
I mean, LA Knight's had a great bunch of momentum, but I felt like he was a bigger deal even 2 years ago. I remember going to one of the first collisions and everybody was chanting, yeah, LA Knight, yeah, well, at an AEW event. Like his catchphrase is him, he was everywhere. So
who do you think wins men's Money in the Bank then?
I don't know who the last edition is going to be, and that's the real hang up here. I want to say they're going to go with the boring answer and give it to Seth, which to me would be a real disappointment. I would love to see somebody like Penta or LA Knight grab it. Penta especially would be a real wild card, but Penta still has mid-card titles to go for. I don't see him as top tier yet. LA Knight would be a great one to have, but really?
I think LA Knight makes the most sense. Because he should.
LA Knight's the fan pick. Yeah, he's had some great momentum, some great spots. I don't see them giving it to like a Carmelo or anyone really that's up in this qualifier that's coming up.
Seth,
honestly,
what would he like? I don't think Seth.
Carmelo won't get it, and Andrade definitely won't get it, and Fatu won't get it.
That's one of those people though. Like if he wants a world title match, he's going to get it because of his name.
He could, but it also would be great for like, you know, the visionary, everything he has planned. He's the future and you know, Braun Breaker's the future, but Seth's
how many
now.
Two-time Money in the Bank winners have we had? Because they don't
I'm not
come
sure.
that often.
No.
I know Punk, right?
Punk was one, and they have to look back. I'm
Did
terrible
Edge
on
win
the
it
spot,
twice?
but I want to say yes, but I'm terrible with on the spot stats like that. I'd have to go back and
I don't
really
know
go through
how often they would make a two-time Money in the Bank winner because that's why I don't know if they're.
I could see them doing it just for storyline's sake. Instead of Seth and his group having all the belts, now they have the Money in the Bank briefcase, and that gives them, you know, able to run roughshod on Raw because they could take that title at any point in time. And especially seeing what they do. I mean, if Gunther gets it and he's transitional, there's a lot of what ifs. So I guess I'm going to kind of give a cop out and say I don't know what the last to be determined will be. But as of right now, if I had gun to my head, I'm picking Seth Rollins. Absolutely. Seth is my...
I'm going to disappoint myself again, but I'm going to go LA Knight.
And that's not a bad pick either.
But I do see Seth Rollins. I feel like right now it's either LA Knight or Seth Rollins, depending on which way they want to go. But like, then what with LA Knight? Because when is he gonna get to that main event scene? Is he just gonna be mid-carder for life?
Yeah, because LA Knight needs that elevation. I mean, we've heard the chants echoed for years.
See, that's the only thing I don't like about Money in the Bank because like Seth doesn't need it because how much more can Seth Rollins be elevated because he's already one of the biggest superstars in the company. So like,
I just feel like they're going to give it to Seth because he's the architect. He's the mastermind. What a great way to cement him and Paul Heyman orchestrating like a great power move to use his power, you know, and prestige to elevate the other two, you know, obviously Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, you know, Bronson and Braun. That's not going to get confusing, but I mean, and having them go over someone like an LA Knight, or if they added Jacob Fatu instead of Carmelo, like Jacob would have to win. You know, like you said, having him lose here, and especially being the U.S. champ, that's not a great look. Having him be a U.S. champ with the Money in the Bank briefcase, that's unheard of. That would really make him look like a legit beast, but I just don't see that happening. Rollins, he's got the history with Money in the Bank. He did this heist of the century, cashing in 2014, in probably the biggest and most memorable cash-in at all time at WrestleMania 31, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's been some storied cash-ins, but that's probably the best. And this is
that's a video for one day.
Exactly. And this is every cash-in.
I think we should do that one.
We absolutely should touch on that. Look at you. You were the Adir mastermind, my friend. I love that. And what I'm thinking of here, I mean, we kind of gave it away for the men's, maybe Seth being the best of all time, but I would love to go back through and just go over even the failed cash-ins too.
Yeah, like
rank those.
if it was a good failed cash-in, did it make sense? All that, yeah.
Some people feel like Solo's a dark horse, but I feel like it's going to be Seth here. Rollins, you basically, he's got this deadly alliance. And then you can constantly have Punk and Roman and whoever else, Jay maybe, or Sami Zayn, be the foil and him cashing in. Like they keep him from cashing in until he takes them out and can finally do so.
Because CM Punk should be like that John Cena effect with that Money in the Bank contract, where Cena was the first to fail. He was the reason other people failed. See, CM Punk can be like that effect now, like on people, because he made sure Drew McIntyre couldn't cash in.
That would be something. I mean, certainly.
Now he's going to do it to Seth. But I don't know if you play by that again, because people got pissed that they did that to Drew. But I didn't get that mad, because what? Did you want Drew to just carry it around for?
Yeah, exactly. And then Drew now, he's going to go ahead and be out for a bit. Same thing possibly with Hendry. Same thing possibly, so giving other people a chance to step up and after they either, lose a big match or lose a big title or whatever it is, it's certainly the interest is there. It's just, I don't see another one working as far as storyline wise besides Seth. But for the women's, we've got a really stellar lineup here. We've got Alexa Bliss, Roxanne Perez, Rhea Ripley, Julia, and then two to be determined. So this week on SmackDown, Liz will see, we got Naomi, Jade, and Nia. We were just praising Nia Jax and how amazing she was. Naomi with her recent heel turn. Jade Cargill, of course, the only face there. She's the powerhouse to make the other two look even, better. Jade would be a good fit. She's ideal for a ladder match, especially with the smaller women to bounce off of her and have her be the powerhouse. I mean, do we see Stephanie called up? Do we see her next week on Monday come up and qualify for the Money in the Bank? That would be crazy. That would be a holy shit moment. Now you have Stephanie and Julia, who have history of facing each other in the match, as well as Rhea, Roxanne, and Alexa, and possibly whoever else we get. I think it's going to be Nia Jax over Jade and Naomi, personally. I think with everything that Nia's done, they could say, like, oh, she still wants to cash in on Tiffany. We've seen the reverse of her being cashed in on, so there's a story to tell there. I don't think she's going to win, obviously, but with them giving us Seth in the main, I think that there's some interest in this. So who do we get next week? We know that your girl Liv said she was going to be in the qualifying match, that she wanted to come back, go for the Money in the Bank. She's currently the women's one half of the tag team champs, but there's a lot of story elements that play into that. The disillusion and breakdown of Judgment Day. Does Raquel turn on Liv? Does Roxanne and Raquel team up together to take down Liv? How soon does that happen?
I think either at Money in the Bank, Liv is about to win it, then they accidentally on purpose cost her the briefcase. Like Roxanne and Raquel can be arguing, and like Raquel like shoves Roxanne into the ladder and Liv falls over or something.
Yeah, because Roxanne or Julia being the recent NXT call-ups and having them be the new blood to have the titles or the briefcases, excuse me, that's huge. And
that's what I think. And then
Rhea doesn't need it. She doesn't need the briefcase. Like you said, if they went out tomorrow and said Rhea's getting another title match, you're like, yeah, of course, she's Rhea Ripley. That makes perfect sense. Alexa is kind of floundering since her return, and everyone's waiting for her to what? Be involved with the spooky ookie and the Wyatt Six and all the creepy, scary...
I'd rather her not be in the Wyatt family, in my personal opinion, but...
going on there. So we've got to figure that out. And
They're not the Wyatt family. What are they called now?
The Wyatt Six. Yeah.
The Wyatt Six.
I'm still not thrilled with them. I liked their debut, their initial debut, and then it's been very hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. They've started in
and the return was good too.
The return was good. It was a good surprise.
Are they heels now, or what?
I think they're still faces. They're just going to be a meddling force that gets into everybody's way.
Face tweeners, kind of.
Yeah, I think they're just a omnipotent, all-knowing evil force that's also viewed as the good guys. Like that's pretty much what's going on there. So
makes sense. Because the Street Profits, what are they?
I don't know. They're kind of tweeners too, and that's a problem. You know, they don't have defined heels. They should be heels, I would think.
Because
but
they make the Street Profits out to be heels, but then they're all celebrating with the fans all the time. Like, then if that's the case, why did you change their theme song?
Exactly. And that's why I say with Seth, they need to change his theme, because they have the fans celebrating and partying with him there when that's not necessary. You want a full heel presentation. You don't want people singing and dancing and trying to be in Seth's corner. Certainly.
Right.
I originally said, like, oh, Julia would be a great pick. Julia would be the best. But if you want to fuck up the Judgment Day, if you really want to make a statement, you want to go out there and give everybody a Vine Boom to call and go for it, if you have Raquel screw or inadvertently mess up Liv and help.
If Raquel does
Roxanne,
that, does she do that in the qualifiers, or does Liv qualify, then she does that in Money in the Bank? Does Raquel?
I would rather see Liv qualify, and then this is the match where you have them both in. So you have Liv also be in there with Roxanne. There's already a feud between them.
Have her there.
Roxanne cost her Liv's match against Kyrie the other day with her involvement. She's very close to Dom, bringing him nuggets instead of tenders with no sauce. I mean, we're getting a lot of story that's showing, like, hey, Liv's getting screwed. They're doing what happened to Rhea to Liv now. History is repeating itself. Dom may not be the most stand-up guy, or is he? We don't know. So that's kind of the story they're portraying here. I still feel, as we've gone over, it's going to be Liv and Dom turning face. Everybody else will stay or turn, against them, stay heels, turn against them, that kind of thing. But I feel like we're going to get face Dom, face Liv. They'll be the kind of the new dual face power couple, because the fans want to cheer them both. Konnichiwa, bitches. Yeah. Fans went nuts. When she came out, fans went equally nuts.
The pop.
When Dom's out, they get a huge pop. Look at the reaction he got at Mania. They wouldn't have had him run back to the ring if it wasn't something that... Yeah.
They're getting loud pops anytime they're on TV, Liv and Dom. Then you're going to turn Balor face. And people still trying to justify Liv and Dom aren't turning face. Do you see fucking Balor's facial reactions every time there's some drama?
Exactly.
The cackling and laughing.
And I mean, look at Liv this week.
Balor's not turning.
Liv said... that, Liv mentioned, but, we saw Raquel reporting back to Liv. Why? To cause dissension and problems. Instead of being like, hey, Dom, maybe you shouldn't do that, she was reporting to Liv. And then you see who's maybe influencing that? Finn Balor. Why? Because he's cackling like a son of a bitch, laughing his ass off in the background.
I think Raquel's trying to call Liv. I think Raquel's trying to get Liv to dump Dom.
Yes.
Because if you see, like, when Liv got originally annoyed with Dom, like in that beginning segment, like when Liv walked out, Raquel said something probably not nice to him in Spanish and laughed at him. If you notice that. Yes. And then in that later backstage segment, like the dirty look Raquel was giving
she's
Dom.
giving him evil eyes. He's, she's gotten the tongue sticking out. We've gotten the looks behind the back. It certainly happened, and it makes me
me
think it's happening.
Like when Roxanne walked in, everyone's just like, okay, what's she doing here? And then Raquel's over the top. What is she doing here? She's acting way over the top about it. She knew about it. So I think Raquel's definitely in on it with Finn.
Yeah, it seems and feels that way, certainly.
When do you have that happen? Like, is she about to win the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then Raquel pushes her off the ladder and helps Roxanne win? Is that where you see that going?
I mean, they could do it as drastic as that, or what if they just do it where Raquel just helps Roxanne win instead of Liv, so it's not as sudden of a full heel turn. It's just,
going to use Liv's words against her, like when Dominic won the Intercontinental Championship, what she said to Finn, a win for one is a win for all.
Exactly.
And if Finn puts her in Judgment Day, and then Raquel's going to say a win for one is a win for all, so I had to help one of you.
Yep. I think that's more the way to go with it, because it builds towards what? Evolution, which is very important.
Yes.
And I think a match between Roxanne and Liv at Evolution would not only kick fucking ass, but be a real blockbuster as far as, for tickets and forcing people to want to go ahead and see that and purchase or at least tune into the PLE, excuse me.
Then Raquel doesn't do her official turn yet, maybe. Then that's where you do it.
Yeah.
Because she kind of has to play
do it at Evolution.
In the middle.
Yes. I think there's more intrigue to that where if she helped Roxanne and like you said, perfectly encapsulating
then she can do a thing where she helps Liv too. Then they're both confused. Then they don't know who she's going to side with.
Exactly. A little bit of dissension with some confusion sprinkled on top. I
don't know if there's Easter eggs there because Raquel was holding both of the tag team titles, by the way. So I don't know if.
Yeah, makes you wonder. I can see Raquel and Roxanne, being future tag team champions and,
she betrays Liv and gives that other title to Roxanne.
Or they, have them lose it somehow. There's ways to do it, and I think we're going to get there. But I think it's going to be more of a slow burn than we're expecting because we didn't get the sudden turn with Finn either. And we're hearing that that's going to happen at Night of Champions over in Saudi. That's been the rumored news speculation going on for a while. That once we finally get to there.
People have debated with me, they're going to kick Finn out and Finn's going to go babyface. That's what people are telling me. I'm like,
no.
With Finn's facial reaction?
No, with him cackling in the background, him going off on everybody, him being a threatening, mischievous bastard. You're hearing the 28th of June, Saudi, they're going to go ahead and have this big show. Dom's defending his title, and then Finn turns,
I think the only
would be a great
difference
thing to happen.
I think Liv and Dom know what he's up to.
Maybe. And that would be an interesting thing to happen too. We're hey, we expected you to turn on us. And,
because Finn did that when he was planning to kick out Rhea for Liv. So I think Liv knows.
Yeah.
He's not up to any good.
My take, though, Stephanie losing last night, does that mean she's in Money in the Bank? I'm not sure. I would have to imagine she's getting called up full time. For her to be added to the match, that would be great. And you can still accomplish what you want without having Liv in the match. How do you do that? Well, you just have everything we say happen, but it happens during the qualifier. Where Roxanne's already in the match.
And cackling.
Yeah.
When Liv stormed off and got mad at Raquel and Dominic went with her.
Yeah.
Raquel was right next to him when he was laughing and stuff. So why didn't she say anything? What's so funny?
So
I think that was your visual. That's the new Judgment Day. I think that was your.
I think that's
because they walked in. I think that was a way of saying they're out. That's your Judgment Day.
Absolutely.
I think that was their way of doing it.
I think so. I think they're on it because now during the the match where they have the qualifier, you can do the same thing. You can have, Raquel accidentally screws Liv, but it's okay because Roxanne is still in the match. And if she wins, it's good for Judgment Day. And then we still have your idea. We get the slow burn into Evolution, but it just happens to play out a little bit differently. And Stephanie being able to be in the match would be better, if you ask me, than Liv, just for storyline purposes against her and Julia.
Yeah. That's what I think I think Roxanne might win Money in the Bank.
Yeah, actually, because and like you said, a win for Roxanne is a win for all of Judgment Day. That tells a great story going forward.
Raquel, I think might be trying to.
She's jealous.
Yeah,
she's jealous of Dom, and she wants a new friend. It seems like Raquel does.
Because those evil looks she keeps giving Dominic. Those are just.
There's just a lot to it, and some people are worried, Stephanie lost her title too early. Liv came back, and she's a champion, but she's going to drop it. We don't know, and everything's actively playing out. I'm enjoying this, and that's what I will say for a final thought. Above all else, it's been fun. It's been intriguing. I like being able to speculate. Who else is going to be in the match? What's going to happen? What are the storyline implications? When we go back to 2019, as we mentioned last night, and Roman Reigns eating dog food, you didn't care about the week after. You didn't care about tuning into the next show. I didn't care.
They had
about
a nice stage,
what was going
but that's all.
Yeah.
SmackDown had back then.
But now they have the shorter, smaller stage for the small screen flex, as Spaz likes to say, because they're completely sold out and jam full, with people in the buildings in every angle instead of having to bring out the tarps. So you tell me what's working.
And I hope, I don't wish this on, I kind of do because how greedy they are being with tickets. I kind of hope they have to roll out those tarps again. Teach them a lesson to lower those fucking tickets.
Right? There is an online movement happening of people actively being upset with the prices for just these regular shows, saying that families can no longer go. We've discussed it before. We'll definitely discuss it again, but the greed of TKO knows no bounds.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're out of time today, my friend, but let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me over on my Twitter or X, whatever you like to call it nowadays, at Judgment Day Era, and you can find me over on my Instagram at Cody_Onidi_316.
And you can find him here on Into Somewhere Weekly each week, where
Yes,
we
you
break
can.
down NXT and go over all the latest
I'm
news
here, there, and
rumors.
everywhere.
We go over Monday Night Raw. We're usually live after those episodes, and then we'll be live next weekend for all the wonderful PLEs, World Collide, and Money in the Bank. We'll have an official predictions coming up next week when we know the final 2 entrants and see if they add any more matches like CM Punk and Bronson Reed or whatnot. But until then, you can find me on Instagram, on Rumble, on Twitter/X at Countdown Ended. And then you can go ahead, make sure you're subscribed here. You've got that notification bell turned on. Hit the like button. And as always, I thank you all and hope you stay sexy.